Board of Education meeting today is July 18th, 2016, and we want to welcome everyone. If we could have a moment of silence, and you all need to keep everyone in your prayers that's in the law enforcement for the support staff and their families, as we all know what's happening this week. And we also ask for continued prayers for Mr. Brian Gardner, one of our own, who we hope continued success in his recovery. Thank you, everyone. Miss Bonnie, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Miss Bonnie. Board members, has everyone had a chance to review the agenda before we proceed? Any changes or corrections do we need to do before this evening? Okay, if none, I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda as listed. I'll make that motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Agenda approved. Thank you very much. Student and staff recognition. Ms. Maria, you will host.
Thank you. Members of the board and our audience this evening, we take very dearly to heart in Henderson County Schools our core values. They were created by a complete administrative team, given to our staff members. We spent lots of time working through trying to find the right words, the right meaning for our 7 core values, and we ask that all of our staff members live by these, breathe by these, eat by these every day, and be the best role models that they can be for our students. At the end of our school year last year, I sent an email out to all staff members to say, at our closing day activities, we would like to recognize folks that we think that you have watched throughout the year really show and exhibit characteristics of the core values. And so we had over 40 people, 40 of our staff members send in different nominations, and they explained all of their reasons why. And from that, then there was a selection of people that represent our core values. So the core values, the people that were selected to say this is a model of a person who shows on the outreach, or here's a model of a person who talks about being a change agent. They weren't selected by me or by district office administrator. They weren't selected by the board. They were selected by their peers, which makes it, I think, even more special because they have watched and worked with those folks every day. So tonight, board members, I wanted to introduce those folks to you, plus to our audience, and do a board recognition and share with you a little bit about them. So the first one I have right here is Aaron Nelson. Aaron Nelson has overcome quite a few struggles. Right there at the end, he was in one of our ultimate challenges, just going at it for South Middle School, even though he teaches at the high school. And he is being recognized for being a change agent. And a quick little story with Aaron. After when you were injured the night of the volleyball game, Mr. Rush and I were up there later in the emergency room talking with him, and he said to me, gosh, we have, I can't remember, it was 3 or 4 days of school left. It was just almost the last day, and he said, I have 137 or 157 students every day that I see, and I have 131 or 151 of them ready, college and career ready, and I still have time to get the rest of them ready. This is the dedication of our very own Mr. Nelson at the high school, being a change agent for kids and making sure kids get everything they need to change their lives to be successful. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Aaron Nelson. chair. You can stand. I am impressed. Next, we have be a change agent, and we chose 2 for this category because neither one, Mr. Nelson or Mr. Don Swanson, if he would come forward, please, could not go unacknowledged. And one of the quotes I remember that they talked about Mr. Swanson was that one of the students said to a staff member one day, "I think he's God at South Henderson." Because he knows his kids, he knows his families, and he is so supportive and champions the kids, and he is a great example of one of our core values of being a change agent. So I introduce to you all Mr. Johnson. Then we have Own the Outreach, which is one of our core values, meaning we own. We want parents to come to us and be a part of us, but we also own part of that relationship. And hands down, more than one time was this person nominated from a variety of different people. So it wasn't like a group of people got together and pushed this person's name in. Miss Julie Onan, would you please come forward? And if you know Miss Julie Onan, I can say no more other than that you own the outreach with our families and our kids. Oh, wow. I could talk about all of these folks, I think, quite a bit tonight. Let's talk about inspiring human greatness. What better teacher to introduce to you tonight than Miss Audrey Corsi? She inspires, and I have had the great opportunity to work very directly with her in elementary school, and what she can have the kids do, the shyest of kids, the most uncoordinated of students do, sing and dance and love it, is amazing. You do inspire human greatness in kids. She never lets them not be significant. And I introduce them. We had 2 that exemplified genuine relationships are the foundation of everything we do. Miss Maribeth Bean, if you would come forward, please. I don't see Dee Harrison. Oh, there he is. You're behind Mr. Rush. He was blocking you. Both of you all, come on up, please. Come on up. Words that different folks use to describe these 2 folks are that they know their students. Other staff members go to Maribeth Bean at Central or to Mr. Harrison at South Middle School to help with sometimes students that are very challenging, because they have built a rapport with the family, and they don't hesitate for a minute to call the home, to find out what's going on. Most of the time they already know what's going on. That's why staff members go to them, is to get the information. They are truly genuine people at heart and have a very caring attitude and put kids first. So I'd like to introduce to you Miss Maribeth Bean for Genuine Relationships and being a coach. Miss Ginger Ashby, would you come forward, please? This core value is to cultivate a community where character matters. She, too, was nominated by more than one staff member here at Thelma B. Johnson Early Learning Center. Characteristics that folks most acknowledge about Miss Ashby is the fact that they, as you know, at our preschool center, outreach is a huge part of it. So she doesn't just do it as to check it off as something that you have completed, but she cultivates that community of care, but she also cultivates the community of excellence. She works with the parents. She doesn't enable them. She teaches them how to be the better teachers through building relationships. And that's a huge skill if you think about it. We can all go out and do things and help people and then go on about our business. But Ginger has this natural gift that she doesn't enable, she teaches them, and then that helps them become better. So I'd like to introduce to you all Ginger Ashby. excellence in all we do, Mr. Chad Thompson, if you would come forward, I'd like to introduce Mr. Thompson. He was nominated by several of his staff members and folks outside of his school building. And we know by some of the strategies and activities that he has put place at the high school that excellence in all we do is an expectation, and a great addition this past year at the high school is the amount of student voice that he has allowed to occur with their senior class, with their class president, that whole group. And he just kind of gave and empowered them to go forward, but told them, here's at the level that we conduct ourselves, and have given lots of opportunities, not just to students, but to staff. So I introduce to you all core value, excellence in all we do. I'm so thrilled that all 10 folks are here. We had gotten a message earlier in the week that we weren't sure that everyone would be here, but they all are. So could I ask Kay Hazelwood and Ron Butler to come forward in authentic service in all we do. Now, if you know Miss Kay Hazelwood, when she answers the phone every time, you can tell if you're on the other end, she has a smile on her face. It doesn't matter maybe what's going through her head, or if I say to her, Kay, I have my printer apart on my desk and I need help. She'll smile and she will come and help. She has authentic service. Even in her head, she might be thinking a lot of different things. She never really asks the why or how you get into these predicaments. But she genuinely comes forward and she helps with a smile on her face. And at 5 o'clock, no, 4, we are snow buddies. She's my backup from a snow buddy in the one-call days. And you did. You always had that smile. And your department appreciates that, and the people out in the school appreciate when Kay answers that phone in the technology department. So I introduce to you all Kay Hazelwood. Mr. Ron Butler. The great story here was actually from a staff member, but also a parent of Mr. Butler. Ron Butler drives a school bus for us. And this parent / staff member told the story of how where they live out in the country, there's a lot of flooding. And she feels very safe, very secure that her kindergartner rides Mr. Butler's, or Mr. Ron, I think is what they call you, Mr. Ron, on the bus, that they ride his bus. And that it's not uncommon for him to call and inform parents how or why their kids might be late, or he'll go out of his way to reroute his bus to make sure all of those kids get home safely. So he's very good in his communication to our parents, taking good care of our parents, and providing that authentic service to our kids. So I introduce to you all aboard Mr. Ron Butler. You all scoot down, kind of center yourself. Ms. Williams would love to get a picture. Okay, we have to practice. Of course, you do the best at teaching us. Hold your certificate. There you go. There you go. Looking good. Looking good. Okay, we're squeezing. Squeeze in. Thank you all very much. And Ms. Baird, are you gonna?
I'm gonna be next.
Sure.
If I could ask the representative from the Henderson County Police and the Henderson County, or the Henderson Police and Henderson County Sheriff's Department to come forward, please. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We understand that your community and your family has had a rough month, and we get that. Henderson County Schools and the Board of Education is taking time this week to thank the officers and staff of the Henderson Police Department and the Henderson County Sheriff's Department for all the work, dedication, and care that they show our students, our staff, and our schools. The hallways and our outdoor campuses of Henderson schools are filled with our most valuable assets, our kids and our community members. These two departments put their passion into protecting these assets 24/7. As you heard Ms. Stanley say earlier, one of our core values is inspire human greatness. Henderson Police and the Sheriff's Department give us that inspiration. Thank you, gentlemen, and thank all of your staff.
Tonight a very small token of our appreciation, but I know our secondary principals and our other principals that are here this evening completely echo the words that Ms. Baird said. I'd like to present you with a certificate tonight, gratitude for your unwavering support, your willingness to partner with us, and for serving as an example of professionalism and community engagement for every student. Thank you.
I put my skinny outfit on. I don't know how we want to do this.
The rest of our public participation, anyone else needs to speak to the board this evening, we'll ask you to fill out one of these forms and bring it to us. Right now we have Mr. Greg Hunsaker.
Hello, I'm Greg Hunsaker, and you guys know that I don't every single day, but most every single day I pray for our school system. It's not just me, but it's all members in the community. And I want to encourage everyone to come together on August the 6th, Saturday night, 6 p.m. It's a walk and pray for schools in our community. It's in Central Park. Get your phones out, it's okay. Put it in your phone. If you can come, come. If not, share the word. But anyway, 6 p.m. in Central Park. We'll walk around Central Park and we'll be basically praying for schools in our community. So thank you for that comment, Aaron. Thank you for listening. Tonight, my good friend Alan Ramsey, Gospel Light Baptist Church, will be leading us in prayer.
I just have a few things to say, but I'm not much of a public speaker, but I usually get lost if I'm not behind my pulpit. But I do want to thank our law enforcement in our community. We're very fortunate to have such talent and caring individuals. I'm a little partial to that. My son is on the police department and has been for about 11 years, and he loves it. But I still worry about him every time he goes out of the house. And he doesn't live at home, but I still worry about him. For 20 years, I worked for the ambulance service here in this community, so I worked side by side with many of the police and the sheriff's department. And my son had gotten bit by a dog while he was working, and I was at home, and I heard it on a scanner. And so, doing a fatherly thing, I went to where he had been attacked, and he was in the back of the ambulance, and and his shift supervisor was coming out of the ambulance, and he saw me walking up the street, and he looked inside and he said, "Eric, don't worry about it, you'll be okay, your dad's here now." And I promised him at that time, I said, "I will not do this again, embarrass you in front of your other folks." And I am partial to the school system too. My wife works at South Heights. She works in the kitchen, and she talks about the children all the time. Comes home and tells me stories about this little child, and oh, she just can't believe how pretty this one is, and just, I mean, she just tells me all about it. And so I just feel like I'm part of the school system too. But in saying that, I think we need to pray for our nation. We need to pray for our community, our law enforcement, but also for our school board, because they affect every child in Henderson County. And every family is touched by the decisions the school board makes. And I believe that we need to pray for wisdom and insight and direction. And so if you would, let's pray this time. Father, we thank you, Lord, for this wonderful, beautiful day that you've given us. And Lord, I do thank you for this great nation that we live in and this community that we live in. And Lord, it just seems like so many things happen around this nation that doesn't even affect us, because it just seems like our environment is so much different. But Lord, we thank you for that. I thank you for these leaders that are here tonight. Lord, they need your wisdom. They need your insight as they direct and try to teach these young people, Lord, how to be adults and how to live on their own. And Lord, they need your help. They need your strength. They need your guidance. Lord, be with our law enforcement also, the first responders, EMS, Lord, as we go through these trying times also. And Lord, I think of the principal that had the stroke. I pray that you would be with him and give him the strength that he needs, and that he would have a complete recovery. And Lord, we just don't know what's going to happen in our new school year this year. But Lord, we pray that your hand would be about it. And Lord, that you would just again lead and guide and give wisdom where necessary. And Lord, we'll thank you for it. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. And I do thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. Thank you. Mr. Tom Mallers?
I'll save this for another time, thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to approving the minutes from the prior meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from June the 20th? 3 different meetings there. Does anyone have any changes, suggestions, comments about those? Hearing none, I look for a motion to approve the minutes as listed. Thank you, Ms. Tracy. Do I hear a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Brad. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried, minutes approved. Thank you all. Committee reports. Communication committee report. Dr. Sugg, I believe this is yours.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Baird. The Communications Committee has been meeting off and on all year. We've had a few meetings this past school year, and had a few that were canceled because of weather, etc., and some other things that got in the way of people's schedules. But we really have gotten ramped up and very serious about the work now, and actually put down on our calendars a specific date. I think every other month was what we decided to meet, so that we would know ahead of time and be able to have those things ready for those meetings and have that on our calendar. The big focus for us is that we have looked at, with Julie Wisher's help, the CDIP, the mission, the vision, and the strategic plan to make some decisions about what some of our goals should be as a committee. What should we attack first, kind of like triage, what's bleeding the most, and work on that first, and then move on from there. One of the things that we spent a lot of time focusing on this past meeting was exactly what Ms. Stanley shared with us, with the core values and those employees that were recognized for having those core values. And we felt like we need to get that into the community, let the community hear that again and again and again, And one of the ways we'd like to do that is through telling some real life stories, perhaps even using our TV station time to tell some real life stories. So we have a very good opportunity there with all of those folks that we recognize tonight. But making sure that the community understands that is a piece that they are a part of too. And I so appreciate the comments here. You know, his wife works for the school system, so he feels that he's a part of the school system, and that's what our focus is to make everyone in the community, whether they have a relationship or not, feel like they're part of our school system. We also talked a great deal about and are working toward branding, making sure that all of our documents, all of those things that we put forth to the public are easily recognizable. We discussed briefly the logo for Henderson County Schools and possibility of perhaps looking at changing that in the future and getting some input from staff and from the community on that. That's kind of something we discussed, kind of put it on the shelf to look to in the future. And one reason is the expense. To change that at any time is an expense. But we also want to make sure that our logo is so identifiable that when you see it, you don't have to question what organization that is and what values it represents. So that is another thing that we're looking at as well. We also, in the last meeting, decided to add some students to the committee. Going to get some advice from some of the folks at the high school and also those PR people that have student workers as to who would be good. So we have a meeting coming up September 22nd, which is our next meeting. And that's the work that we're working on right now, really prioritizing those things that are before us. So if you have any suggestions or any other things that you'd like for us to add to that agenda, let me know. I'll be happy to get it on there. And Julie, do you have anything to add?
Very comprehensive.
She's made our work very easy.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions about that committee or Dr. Sack? Okay, thank you. Move on to reports. We'll just get you all here at once here, Dr. Sack. KSBA update.
Well, I'm an education nerd, and it was confirmed last weekend or the weekend before, I forget which. I went to KSBA summer leadership conference, and I was there until the very last session, Saturday afternoon. It was like 4:30, and I was in a long and narrow room, and there were several of us that stayed through that last session. We wanted our money's worth. But I looked to my left, all of the windows at Marriott Griffin Gate looked out over the pool area. And all of those folks that were lying in the sun and having fun. And I was thinking, there's no place I'd rather be than listening to an update on Munis and capital outlay projects. And believe it or not, I really enjoyed myself for that hour and a half. So you know you're an educational nerd if you can enjoy it in that setting. But several of the conference workshops that I went to were so reaffirming, and I've found that in my career that most of the time, if you're a good school district, when you go to other opportunities to learn, you find out little things here and there, but you also are reaffirmed that you're doing the right things and you're doing right things right. So I would say that was my big takeaway. Capital funding, we are in much better shape than many districts, even though we've had some cuts and some heartburn in the last year or two. Several districts that were attending were also in the process of looking at a nickel tax, so that's not unusual. It's many districts across the state are having to face that to make sure that they meet the needs of their facilities. One of the more interesting ones and entertaining sessions I attended was fraud protection. Just quickly, I'll tell you that, the average for payroll fraud is about 24 months of it happening before it's ever discovered. So there's a lot of opportunity there for theft. I feel great about having Miss Cindy Cloutier where she is. I know she runs a tight ship, But there currently is a case in Kentucky where a school district that I'm very familiar with had an employee that embezzled many thousands of dollars before it was ever discovered. One of the myths is that an external audit will discover fraud. Only about 4% of school fraud is discovered through an outside audit. That's not really their focus unless, right, it's discovered internally, mainly through tips and also some red flags they shared with us, obviously somebody living above their means, etc. A couple of things they mentioned: theft of goods, obviously, is still theft. Taking things from the workplace and using those at home, kickbacks and gratuities. And then the one that many people forget about, they spend a great deal of time talking about, was the theft of time, when an employee might leave 15 minutes early on a regular basis, and so on. That's really a theft of time. So that was interesting. One of the last sessions I attended was facilities about data and risk management, and this one obviously caught my eye because the presenter was former director of facilities at KDE, and Mark Riles is kind of the statewide expert and actually is known throughout southeastern United States areas for his work. And this is a quote that he brought up, and I knew this in my brain, but I had never been able to put words to it. Especially during the nickel tax, I heard many people say that buildings really don't matter. A good teacher matters. I know that's true, but there's more to it that I never could put my words to. And he gave us the data to back up the fact that facilities with a good teacher in them shows that students perform at far greater achievement levels. And the data and the research is there to back that up. Students, especially of low socioeconomic status, perform 20% higher in a facility that is modern, up to date, and uses best practices. And students that are already in a high socioeconomic category perform 7% better. And there's, once again, research to back that up. They mentioned things like lighting. We've got a lot of lighting projects going on, spatial configurations, noise, comfort level, heating and cooling, and air quality. All of those things create the atmosphere from which students learn. So that was very, very interesting, with some hard data to back up what we already knew. Also, he gave us some really good advice about change orders and what to look for. You can expect, he said, average 5% on any major construction, 1 to 1.5% on renovations, and of course anything under that would be excellent. The fact that we came in under budget on the CTE project, he was smiling when I told him that, and that doesn't always happen. So once again, I feel like after listening to that session, our nickel tax and all of our construction projects are underway in a very, very efficient way. I feel really good about those. Also, we had a presentation by Dr. Blake Hazelton about superintendent evaluation and how that's changed across the state. He pointed out that most of the districts that were represented in the conference this summer, I guess it's the educational nerd part, those are pretty high performing districts, or they wouldn't be there in the summer on a weekend, on Friday and Saturday. But most of those that were there, kind of a show of hands, indicated that they spent either quarterly or at least twice a year some time going over the superintendent's evaluation. And I know we've discussed that as well, so I think we're on the right track. And there were a few districts there that actually did that on a monthly basis. So I can give you some more information about how they did that, but that way, gathering all the evidence and sharing it with the board would not be such a monumental task for Ms. Stanley to have at one time in the end of the year. Plus, it gives you some places along the way to make changes and corrections. Also, with the new evaluation system, there's a general trend toward scores that were a little higher than they had expected all across the state. And there's a real need to rely strictly on the rubric and, of course, training, and more training. So those were the key findings, and once again, the key learnings for myself. It was a really good conference, and I have some handouts I'm going to give to Robin, and she'll share those with you. Some of them are kind of tedious to read, but they're really good references.
Anyone have any questions of Dr. Cep? You're kind of echoing the same thing. I went to a session the month before that was like a speed session where you had finance, fraud, ethics, all rolled into one package. And those were different people that presented, but they said the same things of what you just said. So, and I'm like you, I felt like we were at least on the right track, going the right direction. So, thank you very much, Dr. Stud. On to changes at Central Academy. Mr. Black and Mr. Steiner.
Good evening, guys. I'm excited about the new change of Central Academy. I'm going to show you, it's called the big picture. This is what Central Academy used to be. Central, we had a day side, which students come for 45 days. We had 45 days until whenever. We had 11 teachers, up to 90 students for high school, 30 for middle school, 16 students in special education. We did have a technology base, which was IDCware for our high school. And for the middle school, we had traditional curriculum. So whatever North and South we were using, that's what our middle school used. And also we had a short term with up to 16 students. And what the short term was the students who got in a fight or something at North or South County, they'll come to us for 3 to 10 days. We also had the Central Performance Base. Last year it was housed at Henderson County High. It was from ages 15 to 21. There were three teachers, and it was referred by high school administration. There were unlimited spaces. It also was technology-based curriculum. Last year we had a night school. It was for our policy violators, drugs, technology violations, severe behavior issues. The times were from 3 to 6, and it was one teacher, Mr. Ashby. Last year we had something new. It was called e-learning, and that was for someone who had 2 or more policy violations or weapons of any kind. So this is the future. This is what the CAS Central Academy School will look like. This year, we're going to have one principal, curriculum specialist, testing coordinator, or curriculum specialist, going to change to instructional supervisor, counselor, career coach. We're going to have 3 regular ed teachers, 2 assistants, 1 special education teacher, and 2 assistants, 2 performance-based teachers, and 1 assistant there, 2 secretaries, 1 custodian, 1 short-term teacher. Also, we're going to have retired additional help to supplement performance-based and day side. And there will no longer be night school, the elimination of night school. So this is the new look day side. The students will come from North, South, or County High for 20 or 45 days. We're going to call this our Rebound Division. Because a lot of students were coming there and they were standing. They were liking the field and they were just there. So they're going to come to us for 20 to 45 days, and that's depending on what Mr. Rush or Ms. Johnson or Mr. Thompson says, and then send it back to the homeschool unless it's determined by me that they stay longer. We're going to have 2 high school classrooms. There's going to be a max of 30 students. 1 middle school classroom with a max of 14 students. All the core classes will be completed through online curriculum, IDCware. From 8 to 12, we're going to teach our 4 classes and have lunch in there. And then from 12 to 3, we're going to have all of our electives and then something we call EBW, experience-based work. And that's where we send our kids out to the community to work with. We have the stables, we have community outreach that we're working with. We mentor at Jefferson or South Heights, teaching our kids some of those soft skills that they lack. And then our short-term students will come from North, South, and County High. That max will be 16 students. And also we'll have our guidance lessons and social interaction groups with them. And for our new PB, performance-based. Now it's going to be housed at our school at Central Academy. It's going to be for ages 15 to 21. It's going to be a flexible, non-traditional schedule. The successful completion of 24 credits. Students will be referred to the principal, and CAS administration team will make the final decision on placement. They must have at least 7 credits to even be considered to become performance-based. The hours of operation will be from 8 to 5:30, Monday through Thursday, and 8 to 11 on Friday. And the reason why on Friday we have from 8 to 11, because the other half of the day, my teachers will be constantly making phone calls, making house visits to performance-based, and even from 8 to 5:30, it's going to be constant communication with the parents. And that's the key, the constant communication with parents and students. With PB, we're going to have a tier system, 2 tiers. Tier 1, it's going to be for students with 12 or more credits or 18 years old. They will be required to come to school for a minimum of 8 hours per week. Students will schedule days and times of attendance with staff the prior week. So if they come in on Thursday the prior week, they can tell Ms. Cowan that, next week, Ms. Cowan, I want to come in from 8 to 5 on Monday. And we're expecting them to be there 8 to 5. If they're not, we're making a phone call. If they're not again, we're going to visit. Any students who attends PB must participate and provide weekly evidence of one of the following. They must, 1, hold a job or have volunteer hours per week in a local business or agency. In our Tier 2, they have 7 or more credits, a minimum of 16 hours per week they must attend. They must attend a minimum of 3 days per week. And just like the Tier 1, students will schedule the days and times of attendance with staff the prior week, and they also must hold a job or volunteer hours per week in a local business or agency. And I've actually talked with Ms. Bear gave me some information, and got an email the other day from Ms. Farmer, just different agencies that need our kids' help. And if anyone has any suggestions for agencies or things that our kids can do, please email me or Mary Beth Bean or Deb Calvin. E-learning, the new look e-learning. E-learning, they're referred to CAS by school principal, and placement will be made by the CAS administrator. Students who could possibly attend e-learning. Any student with 2 or more policy violations. Any student with severe behavior. Any student with an offense or policy violation that involves a weapon of any kind. Any public offense involving a weapon of terrorist threat. It's an online curriculum from home or other location. For example, JFK Center Public Library. And e-learning assistance, Mr. Ashby will be available if they have any questions. 1, by messaging him. 2, by phone. Or 3, making a one-on-one appointment with him. Where are we now? So as of now, our day side, all of our parents have been contacted. Our high school, as of right now, we have 20 students, high school students. We have 10 middle school students. In our special education room, we have 10 students as of now. Our CSPB, all parents have been contacted. August 3rd, we're going to have an informative night. We have around 100 performance-based students, with about 85 scheduled to graduate in May. All schools have been contacted about who's returning and how long they'll be with us. In our e-learning, we have got 5 students. We've hired retired teachers as interventionists to help both day side and performance-based. And also, this continued contact communication is the key to our success from the parents, the students, and the staff. You guys have any questions? Hello, I'm Mr. Black. I'm the principal of Central Academy School. Let's take a look at my awesome school. It was just a way that I could show our school sitting there, so I like to show off a little bit. Do you guys have any questions? Hello, I'm Mr. Black. I'm the principal of Central Academy School. Let's take a look at the awesome school. Does it sound good, at least? That sounds great.
I'm watching, it looks good too.
Hey. Mr. Black. I'm the principal of Central Academy School. Let's take a look at the awesome school.
One thing that's really impressive about that group and about the changes we've gone through is those teachers, staff, and I say teachers, I mean all people that are there, have that renewed commitment. And I don't guess it's ever wavered that I know of, that they are in it for kids and they realize whatever got you here, but we've got you now. And that continued commitment to, it doesn't matter where you've been at this point, it matters where I can get you to next. Is unwavering. I'm excited for the changes and the adjustments, and there are going to be some hiccups along the way. There's no doubt. I mean, that just happens. But the group that's there truly wants to be there, and they will make a difference.
It really is a family. We have a small staff, but we're mighty.
Mr. Black, so I understand then that you will have less students that will be staying at Central for their entire student career, because we have had students that they would go back to one school and come back to Central again. They kept returning, and so the plan is to get them back to their original school and keep them there. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, if they go back to their school and once they go back to the East Rush and if they go through their interventions and they still can't get quite right at South Middle School, then they come back to us.
It's on a short-term basis. It's not that you're staying there forever as a full school. Okay. Thank you. Board members, any other questions, comments? Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Stein. We look forward to it. CEP update. Ms. Charlotte?
Good evening, everyone. As you know, the Community Eligibility Program is a federally funded program in which schools can qualify for all free breakfast and lunch. To meet that qualification for the federal guidelines, you have to have, first your school has to have a percentage of 40% or more of direct certification. And when I talk about direct certification, I just want to make sure I keep everybody up to date. If you qualify based off of your income, you cannot be included in this percentage. Unfortunately, that affects some of our schools, but we have to make do with what the federal guidelines will allow us. So for the upcoming school year, under the new CEP eligibility, we'll be able to continue the schools we have on right now and add Cairo and East Heights Elementary to the CEP program. Are there any questions? I can let you know, when we, I always work with Cindy Cloutier and we run the program and the formula, and you have to have that 62.5 to get 100% reimbursement. And this was the only formula that worked this year.
So that leaves out our middle schools and our high school, correct?
In Scottsdale.
In Scottsdale.
Yes, ma'am.
We take what we can get. We're appreciative for every piece and every
Take what
child
we
that
can
gets
get and
fed.
keep trying.
Yes, ma'am. Any questions, board members? Ms. Sharp? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Tracy?
When it, at the top it says for immediate release, is that for like to be released to the gleaner? This is something that, of course, being at hospital, parents ask me, you know, how come we didn't fit into that formula? And if there was any way that we could explain it so that it is printed and people can read it and see, you know, and understand why. Because again, that's one of the things that I have received calls about.
Yes, ma'am, and I've been working with Julie Wisher, so we would be prepared for immediate release right after the board meeting to try to explain that. And that's why I also included the individual school percentages so that they would see Scottsdale is our only school in the district that falls under that 40% at 38.06. So, and I'll be glad to answer any questions. Parents can call the office, and I'll answer what I can.
Thank you. And Ms. Williams, I also feel like by listening to Ms. Wisher and Ms. Baumgartner talk about the kind of the rollout plan to attend different back-to-school parent evening events and have flyers or literature available, or to have a table set up and different places that they also can explain those things also. But yes, I'm sure as soon as it goes out, you'll get calls.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to student services, Mr. Steiner?
Yes, ma'am. Before we get started, Robin, you go ahead and pull up yours, and I'll just speak from that. I'll just say bing. I want you to go. Okay. Before we get started, Mr. Black probably forgot to introduce his crew that he has with him tonight. Got a couple of Miss Bean is here, and Miss Deb as well are here to kind of help present and be here. And those have been mainstays in our Central Academy, and they both realize the task that they undertake, and they do that with a care and concern about kids that it speaks to them individually. It's huge. So we appreciate them being here tonight. So I announce them and tell them, then I better announce my group. So for student services, our division serves a little over 7,000 students. And we try to say we serve our staff as well, but our main focus is our students. And that's kind of us holding the umbrella up, just kind of trying to take care of those around us. So in our division, we have Miss Marilyn, who's the queen of IC and miscellaneous other things. It's been there for 15 years. And she is a mainstay. She is the first person a lot of times people see when they come in. And whether they're upset at school or upset at me or somebody else for whatever reason, she's able to solve some problems, solve some issues. She's always been there for us, big deal for us. So she's been there 15 years or more. And I was just hesitant to put more than 15 because I got nervous. So at least 15. I've been in Student Services Division as DPP for about 6 years now. And Miss Casey's been with us for 5 years. And Miss Amber Williams is here today. And today is her first day. She got hired earlier this summer. And she'll be working with our group now. She's been previously somewhere else. I don't know if I'm supposed to say. But she's somewhere else in the community, but been working with our school. So when we got a chance to hire her, we were pleased to get her to join our division. And she'll be working with mainly elementary, but as we all know, we kind of cover a lot of different areas. So I'm going to go quickly through the PowerPoint because they only gave me 10 minutes and I have 18 slides, so that's less than a minute apiece, and I've already spent too much. The next slide is mainly, those are the things we do daily. And a lot of times we feel like the little lady there in the, even me, feel like the little lady in our cartoon, taking care of a lot of things for a lot of different people. So 3 areas of focus that I'll kind of hit on tonight that I'll share with you are, first of all, our priorities are attendance, our court division, and our home hospital or mental health issues. Okay? And we'll go from there. Showed you the district attendance from last year and this year, and I think I put it in your board packet previous years. We are up 0.13.
percent from last year, which is a good thing. The previous year we had flu issues and that kind of thing, so we're up a little bit from there. Our goal has always been 96%. We haven't reached that. The highest we've ever been is 95.29. But we don't let it rest. We know that 96 is our goal, and we're still trying to get there. So the next slide is about enrollments over the last few years. Probably been some questions and ideas about what are enrollments, and so you can see those at the end of the year. We ended up with those particular numbers. So we're holding our own. In a sense, you could say we're growing, but at the same time, it's right in there together. So we're not progressing like we were growing a lot of students. But it's pretty good information to have to look at. One of the things that we do, the next slide you'll see is attendance contacts. Our group and our division, our student services group, it's one of the things that we have to do each and every day, each and every week. Running reports, trying to figure out what students are there, what students are not there, and we make home visits, phone calls, personal contacts. The school will call and say, hey, we haven't seen this parent forever and they're here now, can you get here now? We need to meet now. And so we jump in the car and go. So you can see our contacts, and that's the information in Infinite Campus. That may not be all of them, to be honest, because sometimes I'll forget to put things in Infinite Campus. But those are kind of some generic numbers that you can see that for sure that number we've reached, and even more. Secondary as well, we've got some of those in as well. Just things that we do each and every week. We cover different areas and different things, including truancy diversion, which I think we'll talk about a little later. But there's a lot of different things that go into our contacts. So, all right. Homeschool numbers, just so you're aware, in 2016 we had 253 students that were on homeschool, and you can see the way that adjusts over the last 3 years and the number of families. There was a big concern when we went to 18 and older, is when you can drop out, that our numbers in homeschool would increase, and they have for some areas around us, but not for ours. That was going to be a way that many people could share that, hey, here's a way that kind of somewhat move around the requirement to stay in school at 18, but our numbers have stayed pretty consistent. We have seen a little increase, but once again, looking at those around us, for a district our size, it's not a way out number, that's for sure. So we're pretty pleased with that. And our next slide, non-resident students. We make a commitment to surrounding districts that we will share students depending upon whatever reason. Maybe their folks work here or folks work there, and we'll share the students, and then seat form that will follow them. So those that are coming from those counties are listed, and those that are going to from our school system are listed as well. So you can see we've got just in this last year, I think we're a plus 13 coming in rather than going out. Truancy Diversion Program is the next thing you'll see. One of the big aspects of our secondary school is the Truancy Diversion Program with our court system, and the team that's there includes Judge Ferris, and she's a huge leader in that area. We work with the CDWs, DCPS, DJJ, Lighthouse, our district mental health counselor, social and school personnel at each school, north, south, central, and county this last year. I think we're going to focus on north, south, and county based on the changes coming up in central. So it's going to allow us to get that many more times into north and south and county. We meet each Wednesday morning, 7:30. Every Wednesday, the team meets at a different secondary school and covers issues involving truancy and students, meeting with students and families each week to make sure that we have all the information and they have all the information they need to make wise choices about attending school. So next is another area, a new area based on some laws that have taken place. Prayer team with our court system. Prayer team members include our county attorney, public defender, DCPS, CDW, DJJ, Lighthouse, River Valley, Chief of Police, and the Health Department. These are bi-monthly meetings. They start at 9 o'clock. Just comes up with different areas, avenues things we've tried, things we haven't with students that we have, trying to make them successful and hopefully keep them out of court as long as possible. Through court, every Monday afternoon, we have juvenile court, which can last anywhere from 12 until, as our officers in the room know, whenever. But we started somewhere around 12 and we're going to go until they're finished. That's every Monday. Every Thursday we have family court, usually starts at 9, and we'll continue on throughout the day. So we attend each one of those and provide information as needed and serve as kind of representative to the court system. Court petitions filed for educational neglect, you see those listed. Each and every year we go through those and determine how many we need to file on for educational neglect, and then how many that we can continue to work with. Just depends on how well they work with us and how much progress we're seeing. Okay. Home hospital numbers, huge. Big aspect of our student services department. You can see the total number of students we served at the bottom right, 141. And the total number of days that we tracked was 6,848. You can see the breakdown of students, the number of days, number of special ed students that had issues that they needed home hospital for. Home hospital, just a brief thing, is they have a doctor's excuse and they need to be out of school. So we provide services to them in their home or somewhere else. And basically it's at 2 hours per week. We try to get them kept up with what's going on in their class so that they can return whenever they can return. Special ed has a big deal in that because of they are using a home hospital teacher for their special ed division. That's been extremely helpful. And as you can see on the numbers, a very positive thing for us. Next slide goes into other things that we deal with. Youth mental health first aid trainings, and that's the one where I had the new numbers on. That's on this one. Of 16, we've had 16 youth mental health trainings that we've provided for the community, and there are 237 adults in the community that have now been trained as of the end of July. 237 people have been trained on youth mental health first aid, which is a huge deal. Our goal was 200, and so we're going to reach that goal. And this last little bit, we're going to reach it, and we'll exceed that as we go forward into that early fall. So, all right. Our mental health counselor that you guys have shared with you before about, I just kind of wanted to briefly put some information in front of you about it, and to show the need based on the youth mental health first aid trainings. And there are over 100 referrals from just secondary schools in the RTI program, and all those students were seen and evaluated for future needs, referred out as appropriate, and then that person's on call for crisis and emergency situations as well. So that's another area that we go through. Our Center for Youth Justice Services, our DJJ project, is still going on. You've heard about that before, but basically that's just another way that we try to prevent students from going to court. We try to solve some issues before they get there, if at all possible. That's still at the high school with the DJJ group. Okay. And the last one's it's a cool quote I saw when I was looking through the things, and you had water on the screen, and I was like, I don't know, I can come up with a quote. But this is pretty cool. It says, when passing through the storms of life, remember, it could be worse. It will get better. Stay strong, focus on what you can do, not what you cannot. And know that the clouds will soon part and the sun will return again. And a lot of times in student services, for whatever reason, I don't know where else to go, or people directed to us, there is a cloud, or there is an issue happening, and it's up to us to help solve it. Sometimes a parent is exactly right, and we need to go to that school and say, you know what, they got a point. We need to adjust. Or sometimes a parent just needs to be heard, and we have to share that, you know, the school is right, but here's how we can help you with this situation. So that's kind of what we do each and every day. may have left something out, but I have, ladies, I'll leave anything out. It's a big task, it's a big group, and we take it seriously. Three of them try to keep it serious. One of them tries to lighten it up every now and then. But it's a job that we love, but it's also a job that's very taxing at times, which is for us. So, questions or comments or thoughts?
Board members, any comments, questions?
I just had one. I looked at the brochure and I really like the brochure that you all have put together. I think it's very clear and helps to communicate a lot of things that people have questions about. I'm asking a question about it. At the bottom right-hand corner in the green box where it says, please schedule trips and vacations during designated school calendar breaks. Most trips will not be considered an educational enhancement absence. Have we really tightened up on that? Or is there any attempt to make that consistent? I know when I was at the high school, that was a real problem.
It is one thing that's continued to be a problem, because we know that it's kind of a balancing act, and that's what we're still doing at this point. We're trying to put the information out early to be able to say, hey, most will not. We may have some exceptions, but this is where we're trying to stem the tide back our way. In our attendance audits that come around every few years, that's one of the things they look at, and ours weren't high enough. Our educational enhancement forms weren't high enough that they thought, hey, that's an outlier. So we were within the guides of kind of some surrounding areas and what they see, but it is a concern that we're trying to still work with.
I think one thing that would be helpful is if somehow the consistency among schools could be beefed up, where one principal's not the bad guy saying, no, that doesn't count, and little brother was approved last week to go on the same trip. That's a real problem, kind of a black eye for us. So if you all could work on how principals could work together, or how your office could help increase the consistency on that, I think that would help get the word out to parents that that's not just any time you want to take a trip and a family vacation. That's a totally different animal than educational enhancement opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Stowe. Mr. Steve, I want to commend your whole team for the work that they do, because you don't always deal with the easiest circumstances and the easiest students. Although it looks like it's something bad, mental health referrals, I see that as a positive thing. I think that is a way for us to ward off something that could be coming in the future. And as we've seen in the past, sometimes troubled students can lead to bad community activities. So we're tickled to death that you are at least catching some of those early and referring them on to the folks who can give them some help. So,
and of course with Cep still being in here too, he's one of our trainers for youth mental health first aid. So his group, him and Russell are both, Mr. Officer Stoner, are both trainers for our group as well. So our group, our student services small group, combines with a lot of community people, and we touch a lot of different agencies and work with them really well compared to what I hear at our DPP conference. They're always mad at somebody who's doing this or doing that, but our group and our community really works together on this, and so that makes it a whole lot easier for us as best we can.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the second reading of, I'm sorry, I'm skipping. Going on to old business, board attorney, RFP. Dr. Sutton?
Thank you.
Your committee.
I'll just give you an update on where we are. Let's see, is that an action item? Okay. In January, I brought before the board what I felt like was a need to do a little review and send out an RFP for our attorney work, mainly since it hadn't been done for years, if ever. And what's come out of that is a board policy that does show periodic review of our board attorney and that selection. And I would just think that's a good thing, that we always continue to review where we are with folks that we work with and folks that we pay. So we initiated the RFP process. And another thing that the board did is examined all bills for any type of legal services for the last 3 years. So we had a really good idea of what an average year would cost for legal services. Then the selection committee met, and we used a rating criteria that included years experience in school board work. We examined a retainer versus an hourly cost fee, and once again, relying on the data that you all supplied us, and made some judgments there. Board meeting attendance, school law training and experience in school law, the location and the size of the legal office, and also the experience with any type of litigation. Lots of other things in our RFP, but those are the main selection criteria that we used, kind of on a points system. We only had one respondent for that RFP, and that was Stowe, Keenan, and Ogden, and that is the firm that currently we are using with Ms. Bird as our representative. One of the things that our committee spent the most time on was looking at fee for hourly services versus monthly retainer. And when you compared the data for the years that we looked at, we saw the potential for some savings by going with a monthly retainer as a fee for service rather than the hourly fee, especially in a year when you had an extensive amount of litigation over certain topics. It could rapidly mount up as an hourly fee. So our recommendation from the committee is that we go with Stowe, Keenan, and Ogden. And we've been happy with their services, and we would like to continue that relationship. Once again, per the policy, examining that, I believe it was every 2 years when the board chair changes. And we would also recommend that we go with a monthly retainer, which was in their paperwork that they sent to us for the RFP, versus the hourly fee. And I think Cindy might be able to answer any questions, any other questions financially. There were several of us on the committee. Ginger did most of the legwork on this, and I appreciated the way she put all that together. So Ginger and Cindy, Ms. Stanley, you all have things to add. I would appreciate it, but I feel very comfortable with what we've done this year so far.
Board members, anyone have a question regarding the RFP and the process that the committee went through? Okay. Dr. Sutton, that was your committee. Would you like to make that motion?
I make the motion that we employ Stowe, Keenan, and Ogden as our board attorney consultants, and also that we pay them on a monthly retainer as fee for service of $6,000 per month, which will save us some money in the long run.
Thank you. Do I hear a second? We'll second that. Thank you, Ms. Jennifer. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Ms. Beth, you have to go back to work. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sutton. Moving on to salary schedule. Ms. Ginger?
Items that are different from what we reviewed in June. The first would be on page 4. The addition there is the number of positions associated with each of the extra service supplements for central office administrators and principals. So that second column there with number of positions, that's different from the salary schedule you all viewed last month. Is there any questions there?
I had asked a question of Ginger earlier today, this is reflecting 3 middle school principals, and of course we know we only have 2, and there is another principal that's being paid in that category, and I asked her to delineate a little further somehow so that it wouldn't be misunderstood that we're paying somebody to be a middle school principal when we don't have a 3rd middle school.
The 3rd middle school principal would be at the alternative school. The alternative school principal receives a middle school principal stipend. And on the elementary school principal, we don't have 9 elementaries, we have 8 elementaries, but we also have the early learning center. So there, that principalship would fall under that delineation between 10 to 20 full-time teachers or 21 or more. It explains the national.
Does that answer your question, Dr. Sloan? Is that good? Okay. Any other questions regarding that salary schedule? Okay, and what about the extra services part? Do we need action required for each one of them, or can we do them as one? Okay. Let's go on and go over
On the extra service, each year our schools, as part of our salary schedule, we have extra service supplements for various things, whether it be coaches, co-curricular activities, extracurricular activities. Our principals submit those, and the list you all have is a combined listing of what we have as of last Tuesday, July 14th, I think it was. We still have some items that are vacant, and as we get those vacancies filled, we'll have those on subsequent personnel actions that follow in August, etc. And since this was published, we've had a few resignations for the 16-17 school year, so you'll see those reflected on the August personnel actions as well.
Ms. Ginger, I'm going to ask the question before Dr. Cep gets to it. So the positions that we have as vacant will be filled. They're part of our normal employment schedule. And the ones that those folks who have resigned, we will find a replacement for. So we don't have any positions listed that we don't have an actual body to fill, and vice versa.
Right. Some of these vacancies, you won't see payroll on there until August. We didn't have the final list, so that's why it's reflected. Will appear on the August personnel actions, and after the deadline to turn in board items, we got most of those finalized. But yes, you will see all of those reflected on future personnel actions if it's a resignation or a vacancy. And some of these are some of our new hires that aren't officially on board yet, and so we don't have all of those in place.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions of Ginger, board members?
Just a comment. I'd like to thank Ms. Stanley and Ginger both for, I think, doing a lot of good work in cleaning up some things that needed to be more specific, and also just for historical sake, something there that can be looked at and everybody understands and is clear about the positions we have. So thank you all for doing that.
I will say, I used to say things change daily, but in the summer things change hourly. So that's why you'll have it's multi-page. There was one other item on the salary schedule that I needed to address. I'm sorry, Robin, that we have to switch between documents, but this was an omission on my part. Whenever we reviewed salary schedule in June, Ms. Charlotte had asked that we include a position. It's on, I think it's page 15, and she had asked me to start looking at the job description, etc. earlier, and whenever we prepared this, we forgot to add that one. So it is not a new position, it is just a title. It's under pay grade 24, and it's called Food Service Operations Coordinator. It is not necessarily a new position, it is a position title in that we currently have a land technician who is performing many of these duties, but and is also on pay grade 24. It kind of fits right in with the presentation she gave earlier. We have more schools now in the CEP program, and with that, there are even more guidelines, federal guidelines to go along with that. And so the current land technician, though he has been helping with that, not being in the official capacity with federal guidelines, you can't really, so we're not adding a position, we're just adding duties to a current position. And so that's listed as Food Service Operations Coordinator on pay grade 24. So that was my omission in June, but I wanted to make sure we got it in July. Funding source is the same pay, it's just, it has, it's a more detailed job description. Coordinates with federal guidelines.
And Mr. Bryan, I see you sitting out there. This does include the changes to the technology department that we discussed earlier, correct?
Yes, ma'am,
The previous.
what I proposed earlier last year. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, that's what I meant. Yes, thank you. Okay.
Technology is ever changing too, so.
Okay. If there's no further questions or discussions, I'll look for a motion to approve the salary schedule as listed by Ms. Ginger Carter. Thank you, Dr. Cep. I'll second that. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Ms. Ginger. Moving on to second reading of KSBA policy update number 39, Ms. Morgana.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is, we're requesting your approval for the second reading of several policies, and these are the policies that Kentucky School Board Association sends to us after legislative sessions on a yearly basis. And as we noted last week, at the top of each policy, they usually give a legal description as to how or why we need to change our particular policy in our school district, or procedures. Procedures are included in here as well. So I'm requesting the approval for the policies listed.
Any questions, board members? Those look like standard updates. Yes, Mr. Brad?
Yeah, I just had a very small thing on the first page. Where it says husband and wife, when the term is actually used later on in one of the procedures, the term husband and wife was struck through and spouse was listed next to it. So should we do the same here on that first page where we replace husband and wife with the word spouse?
Not on the first page, because the first page is definitions, and so I think it defines husband and wife. That term will be used as spouse going forward. I think is that right? So that would be on there.
One's a definition for how the term is going to be used in the next piece of the policy, is what she said. Right. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to approve the second reading of the 2016 KSBA policy update. Thank you, Ms. Jennifer. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Update approved, Ms. Morgana. Mr. Steiner, second reading of the Student Code of Conduct Handbook.
That information was included there in the packet. The main difference there is I think it's on page 32, thereabouts, is the bullying definition. It's new. Any other updates in our KSBA generated from that group will begin meeting this fall as well to look at changes for next year.
Any questions regarding that? Questions for Mr. Steiner? I know Ms. Jennifer would be thrilled to see the new update for the bullying information. Thank you very much. You probably like to.
I make a quick notation.
Yes, ma'am.
Today, this morning, all of our principals and district office people also attended a 3-hour training that was provided on the new definition of the bullying. And the trainer was from the Kentucky Center School Safety.
It's great. Thank you all for those who attended. Ms. Jennifer, would you like to make that motion? Thank you, ma'am. I'll I'll second that. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Second reading of code of conduct approved. Second reading of use of tobacco policies, Ms. Nancy.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to point out that we, as we move through this process, there's a few more attachments that are included in your packet, specifically on the tobacco-free plan. Tomorrow, another letter will go out to all employees, and it will include the policy again, as well as just kind of a flyer. You're looking at it right now. It's a front and back piece that just talks about the policy and we're proud to get school campuses. There's also a window decal that will be printed on the doors, the entrances, and all the entrances to our buildings, as well as the tobacco-free handout. The handout is which is just kind of like a little card that we'll be passing out at all sporting events as we welcome fans into our sporting events, and just making them aware that we have this policy and have some good information on it too about how good this policy is. And it's just another way to be respectfully bring it to their attention and enforce that we are 100% tobacco-free. Looking at this, whether you have any questions or any suggestions that you might have, we have a couple other communication plans that will take place. The standings are in bounds. We have progress on that and continue to get the message out there. But we have seen anything that we feel like we would have certainly take into consideration.
Ms. Nancy, is there any plan to, when we do our home visit blitz, to pass out information to our parents? Because those folks are visiting our campuses as well. Is there any plan to hand out any of the information, a lot of information we give out at home visit
That's
blitz?
an excellent idea. I do not thought we discussed that. Certainly. Thank you. And I don't know if I mentioned it to this time, but before, we're also offering some smoking cessation classes to our employees, as well as there's an online version, not just tobacco use, not just smoking. So I will have several different opportunities to offer our employees support, and then keeping this happen.
Look forward to making this all happen. Any questions, comments about the policy? Okay, hearing none, I'll look for a motion to approve the second reading of use of tobacco policy. Thank you, Ms. Tracy. I'll second that. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Ms. Gibson. Second reading of policy 5.12, donor recognition. Ms. Cep.
Yes, this policy is an outcome from a request of a committee's work to take a look and see what kind of measures we need to have in place should we be made some offers by generous donors in our community, and how their gifts might be recognized and how we might honor their gifting to the school system. What other measures, if they have recommendations or if they have requests as to how they want that money used, or donation used, we'd like to have some policy in place to be able to make those wise decisions. That's a little background for this policy and the reason for the policy. Do you have any questions? So then request your consideration of this policy.
Thank you. Once again, this is like the communications. This is many hours of committee work went into this and digging through many other schools, how they do theirs, asking Ksba and KE for their guidance as well. So this looks like a good policy. And it's always a good place to start. And I thank Ms. Jennifer for her helping on that committee as well. We had co-committee chairmen as well on there. Look for a motion to approve the donor recognition, second reading of donor recognition policy as listed. Thank you, Ms. Jennifer, and I'll second that. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Donor recognition approved. Thank you, Ms. Jones. Moving on to new business. We have the consent agenda. Overnight trip request, retirement resolutions, school activity fundraiser request, transportation of students attending Holy Name, and a request for use of transportation. Is there any of those items that need to be pulled for discussion?
I just have one question. Is the amount for the Holy Name, is that the same amount that it was last year? Same amount, okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I look for a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed. Thank you, Dr. Sugg. I look for a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Jennifer. Tracy. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Consent agenda approved. Moving on to financial. Treasurer's report. Ms. Cindy Cloutier.
In the treasurer's report for the month of June, we had total receipts of $4,822,666, and total expenses of $8,895,022, for a net decrease in all funds of $4,072,356,000, which is typical for the month of June with 5 days.
Board members, any questions regarding this month's financials? Ms. McHale?
Members of the board, I request your consideration in approving the treasurer's report as given to us this evening by Cindy Cloutier.
Look for a motion to approve the treasurer's report as listed. Thank you, Mr. Brad. I'll second that. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Treasurer's report approved. Moving on to paid warrant report, also Ms. Cindy.
Okay, the paid warrant report covers the period of June 21st through July 20th. A couple payments I'll point out. Payments for property liability and fleet to EM Ford for $43,527. Preferred construction services for roofing, $284,647.67. RPS Design Group for work on spots for the school, $146,771.07. North Coast for roofing supplies, materials, $76,585.47. Southern Indiana Body Works for repairs on the bus, $26,890.29. Ksba for our third payment on the Ksba assessment of $25,604. Frontline Technologies for our ASOP and other software, $21,700. And Kimi for our workers installment number 7, $21,596.38. Total paid warrants for this month were $3,893,042.97. Any questions on the paid warrant report?
Not necessarily a question. I did notice, we'll take it from time, we can get back, right, Cindy? I did notice that the Kentucky School Board's insurance trusts our unemployment. We did get a rebate, which probably will be reflected in your July paperwork, but we did get a rebate of $2,800 back in our account. Every little time helps, yes. Ms. Morgan?
Members of the board, I request your consideration for approval report as presented to us by Cindy Cloutier.
Look for a motion to approve to pay the bills.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy. I'll second that motion. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Please pay the bills, Ms. Cindy. Personnel actions. It is noted that we have all received a copy of the personnel actions for July, some of which were noted by Ms. Ginger. Anyone have any questions about that? Thank you. No action required for that. Looks like we're down to item number 12. Look for a motion to adjourn this wonderful meeting. Thank you, Mr. Brad. Do I hear a second?
Second. Yep.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy and Ms. Sally. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.